Good morning. Welcome to Rock Talk 2022. This is Thursday, February 24th. If you got the wrong day, you probably shouldn't be here. My name is Jesse Chaplin. I'm a volunteer for Smithers Exploration Group, and I just want to run through our introduction and welcomes for the day. Welcome everybody that's here in person in Smithers, and welcome everybody that's online. And we're going to get started first by going through the agenda for today. It's slightly different than what you see on the Zoom site, is my understanding, but Lori Farrell here on my right has posted it to our Facebook site, and so you can see the agenda today. The only major change in the agenda is that we've switched Nate to my left, presentation with Kendra Johnston from AME BC. So Nate will be presenting first thing this morning, and we're looking forward to that. So that is our introduction is first this morning on the agenda, and then mining and mineral exploration in Northern BC for 2021 by Nate, an AIM BC update and exploration highlights by Kendra Johnston, the CEO of AME, pursuing CRD style deposits in the Rancheria Silver District by Kevin Brewer, the CEO from CMC Metals. After that period, we'll have a 15-minute question and answer. So I do request everybody come up with good questions and answers that, stimulate some discussion. We know that's difficult on Zoom, more difficult than it is when you're in with a group full of people or a room full of people. But please do try, make up some questions for our speakers. Following that at 10:25, we plan to have Galore Creek, modern geoscience on a unique alkylic porphyry deposit by Niels Peterson, Leif Bailey, and Megan Frederick from Galore Creek Mining Company. A 2021 ISCIT and KSM update by Kay McKenzie from Seabridge Gold. BC's volcanogenic massive sulfide deposits, explore for more by Dave Lefebvre. And then we'll have another question and answer period, followed by a sign off. So that's our agenda for today. We hope you will stick around all day or all morning actually and take a look at it. We could not do this conference without our sponsors. So I just want to read through to you again the people and the companies that have sponsored Rock Talk 22 and just send out my heartfelt thanks to them. So we have ERM Canada, Seabridge Gold, Terrain Geoscience, Minerals North Conference Association, Galore Creek Mining Corporation, Pretium Resources, Vanstra Transportation Systems, Matrix Aviation Solutions, TriPoint Geological Services, CMC Metals, Allegiance Coal or Telco Coal, Airways Drone Services, Hardline Exploration Corp, High Tech Drilling, Blue Lagoon, Gavin Mines, Geotech Drilling Limited, and PNR Exploration Services. Thank you. We really appreciate your sponsorship for this conference. So now I'm going to lead us into what I should have done yesterday, and my apologies, Nate. Nate is the regional geologist for the North Central and Northeast regions of British Columbia. He provides regional expertise to industry, government, academia, and the public for these regions. Nate is an exceptional exploration geoscientist that has joined the BCGS in 2021. He has over 5 years of mineral exploration and mining industry experience. He's worked as a geologist in gold exploration and as a geophysicist, implementing a multitude of geophysical surveys for several mineral exploration applications. Nate also has a background in GIS software and database management. As a regional geologist for the BCGS, Nate is responsible for monitoring and reporting on mineral exploration and mining activity in the Northeast and North Central regions. These reports are published annually through BCGS information circulars and open file maps. And as a very special welcome, we learned at Roundup this year at the conference that Nate has accepted a position in the Northwest as the regional geologist to start later on this summer. So we're super excited to have him here today. We've obtained his services from the BCGS for this conference, and it looks like we'll have him in Smithers with us in person in the future. So now I'll just turn it over to Nate's talk. Please use the chat function.
Everyone, I'm Nate Corcoran, and I'm the regional geologist for the Northeast and North Central regions. My talk today is an update on mining and mineral exploration for Northern BC. So what happened in 2021 for the three Northern mining regions, the Northwest, North Central, and Northeast mining regions. So before I get into my talk, I briefly just want to mention some info about regional geologists. The regional geologists are part of the BC Geological Survey. And so the main BCGS office is in Victoria. We have the Mineral Development Office in Vancouver, where Gord Clark and Bruce Northcote reside. And then we have an office here in Smithers, an office in Prince George, office in Cranbrook, and a vacant office in Kamloops. So I'm currently in the Prince George office, but I'll be taking over the Northwest RG role in April. And so the BC Geological Survey is currently hiring for the Prince George position. They're also looking for a mineral geologist based in Victoria. So some updates on the Northern regional offices. There were 8 positions filled with a focus mainly on permitting regional mines, 5 of which are new positions. The Northwest office has filled 4 roles, 3 of which are new, and 1 was a replacement of a now senior inspector previous position. Similarly, in the Northeast North Central office, 4 roles were filled, with 2 of those being new and 2 replacements. There's also 2 more positions available for the Senior Advisor Indigenous Relations and another Inspectors of Mines and Permitting. Now I'll get into the main part of my talk. So I'll discuss the 2021 mining operations in BC, go into details about the mineral exploration expenditures for the northern regions and some different projects, highlight on some selected events and exploration results. Then I'll briefly touch on current trends for the government and BC Geological Survey, and finish with a quick recap. So this is a map of the BC's 10 active metals mines for 2021 and currently, and 7 active coal mines. 6 of the metals mines are porphyry systems: Red Chris in the Northwest, Mount Milligan in the North Central, and the 4 others in the South Central. So Gibraltar, New Afton, Highland Valley Copper, and Copper Mountain. Bonanza Ledge and Elk in the South Central are precious metal vein systems, and Bruce Jack in the Northwest is an epithermal system. Out of the 7 active coal mines, 3 are in the Northeast, owned by Conuma, and 4 in the Southwest, owned by Teck. And we also have 1 VMS system, which is on Vancouver Island of Meyer Falls in the Southwest region. So here's the 2021 forecasted values of mineral production based on commodity. We see about half of BC's mining revenue comes from coal, which is mainly metallurgical coal. Less than 5% of that is thermal coal, which is produced in the Southeast. Then second is copper, and third gold, followed by base metals. It's not surprising that the copper and gold are second and third, considering the number of active porphyry mines in BC. So BC is Canada's largest producer of copper and coal, and the only province producing molybdenum. And so the total forecasted production value for BC for 2021 was $12.6 billion, which is up about over $5 billion from 2020's estimate. These are the production figures for the active mines in the northern regions. And so I'll just go ahead and pause to give everyone a moment to read them. And so for 2021, for mineral exploration expenditures, we had a total of $660 million spent on exploration, which is 237 million more than in 2020. And the previous high to that was 2012. You can see the peak there on the graph, where 136 million of that was spent on coal, while in 2021, just over 30 million was spent on coal, meaning that 2021 was the highest year on record for metals and other commodities. So if we break that down now into the different regions of BC, we see that the Northwest has spent the most dollars spent at about 55% of the total expenditures. Then second is South Central with about 22%. Third being North Central at 12% of the mineral exploration expenditure. And if we look at the Northeast, is slightly under 1%. So combining the three northern regions, it accounts for about 68% of the 2021 mineral exploration expenditures. So if we look at this chart here, it shows a breakdown of expenditures, where the money is being spent, and this is for the 2020 exploration year. So you can see in 2020, over 2/3 of the money spent was on drilling, and then almost 12% on geochemical assays and sampling. Then all other work types were around 5% or less each. So here's a chart showing the different BC mineral exploration expenditures based on the exploration stage of projects. And so we see for the province as a whole, advanced stage projects account for over half of the money spent in BC. And then with early stages at about 20%, and then the mining stages account for about another 20%, and grassroots at around 4%. I just want to mention that these expenditure charts are an indicator for where the percentage of money is being spent and doesn't necessarily correlate to the number of projects at each exploration stage. So if you look at the same type chart now for the Northwest region, expenditures based on exploration stages, we see that the advanced stage and mine stage account for about 80% of the expenditures, which is above the average spending compared to the province. And then grassroots and early stage projects account for about the other 20%. And so if we look at the exploration expenditures for the Northwest region over the last 20 years, you can see that 2021 is the highest on record, surpassing the previous high of 2012 by over $80 million. So if we look at the AME Explore Our Economy report put out last month, giving a breakdown of where exploration money is being spent in BC for 2020, we see that Smithers receives the highest amount of local spending, with about $30.5 million being spent in Smithers locally. So this might equate to Smithers being a hub for the busy Northwest region, and also the fact that at least 4 drilling companies are based in Smithers, since so much of the expenditures goes towards drilling. Looking specifically at the map here for the Northwest region now, we see that there's over 65 active projects, 1 mine in development, the Premier Gold by Ascot Resources, which we heard about yesterday. And then you can see the active Red Chris and Bruce Jack mines. And then so if anyone wants any more detail about projects on this map, they can look it up in the provincial overview of exploration and Gord Clark's chapter for exploration and mining in the Northwest. And so in the next few slides, I'll focus on big news and exploration highlights in the Northwest. Premier Gold is planning to commence full-scale construction in April and aiming for first production in the first quarter of 2023. Some other noteworthy acquisitions in 2021 include Newmont purchasing GT Gold Corp for over $450 million, as well as the $3.5 billion deal in progress for Newcrest to acquire Pretium Resources. And so that would include Brucejack. So 2021 drilling at Brucejack defined two new mineralized zones, one known as the North Block Zone, with high-grade intersections such as 1 meter of 7,360 grams per ton gold, and another zone known as the Marmot Zone, which had samples up to 6,700 grams per ton gold over half a meter. And if we look a bit further to the northeast, with Thesis Gold, they completed over 16,000 meters of drilling at their Ranch project in the Tuticon Ranges, and they have some high-grade gold intercepts that are listed here. And so if we look at SK Creek and Utsa properties, both Skeena Resources and Surge Copper drilled over 40,000 meters each in 2021, both with some high-grade intersections of gold and silver. And at Utsa, 2021 drilling results have the likelihood of adding higher grade to their current ore volumes and expanding upon the deposit. So moving to KSM project and owned by Seabridge Gold. Seabridge Gold acquired Snowfield from Pretium at the end of 2020, and they have drilled about 9,450 meters, which includes 3,484 meters at the Snowfield and Mitchell deposits. And so results from the Snowfield project suggest potential for blending Snowfield ore with Mitchell deposit production, and that can lead to an extension of open pit mining before underground block cave mining is needed. Looking at Treaty Creek, majority owned by Tudor Gold, they filed a mineral resource assessment this year with 815.7 million tons measured and indicated at 0.66 grams per ton gold, 3.6 grams per ton silver, and 0.06% copper. And they have an inferred resource there as well. So moving to the east now to north central and northeast regions, looking at the map here, we see that there's well over 30 projects on it. And we have the one active porphyry copper mine, Mount Milligan, 4 proposed mines in the north central, including the Blackwater Gold deposit, which is set to commence construction in June. Then we have in the northeast 3 active coal mines, 1 industrial mineral mine, and 2 proposed mines and 1 mineral exploration project. Looking at the mineral exploration expenditures for the north central region, which accounts for about 12% of the mineral exploration budget of BC. For 2021, we see that advanced stage and mine evaluation account for about 60%, while grassroots and early stages account for the other 40%. So I'd like to add, if anyone is looking for any more details on the geology map here or any of the projects for the Northeast, North Central, you can refer to my chapter in the Provincial Overview of Exploration and Mining for 2021 based on Northeast and North Central regions. And so for Blackwater Gold, which is a proposed epithermal gold mine southwest of Vanderhoof, they released a positive feasibility study for 2021 and had a net present value of $2.15 billion and a 23-year mine life. Wachita, to the northeast of Blackwater, is a rare earth element project northeast of Prince George, and it's owned by Defense Metals. And so they filed an updated resource assessment in 2021 and a preliminary economic assessment with a net present value of about $512 million and a 19-year mine life. North of Mount Milligan, we have the Quantica and Stardust properties. And so Serengeti Resources completed an agreement to acquire Sun Metals Corporation, resulting in the consolidation of the Quantica and Stardust projects into a single copper gold exploration project. A new company coming from this merger is Northwest Copper Corp. And so they did 11,000 meters of drilling at Quantica with some good lengths of high-grade copper, and they also filed a new resource assessment for the Stardust deposit with the indicated and inferred resource there below. Looking north now, and in the Toodoggone Range, we have TDG Gold Corp with their Baker and Shasta properties. There they did 8,050 meters of drilling at the Shasta property with some good high grade gold intersections. And at Benchmark Metals, they did about 70,000 meters of drilling, diamond drilling, which delineated 300 meters of mineralization between their Cliff Creek and Duke's Ridge deposits. And they intercepted significant gold and silver grades listed here on the bottom. And so just take note where Dakar Nickel District is, because that's what I'll be talking about on the next slide. Looking at FPX Nickel Corp's Dakar property now, we see that a photo here of the polished core sample displaying fine-grained disseminated averroite mineralization, and that's within a peridotite from their Baptiste deposit. And so they completed over 5,300 meters of drilling between their Baptiste deposit and also maiden drilling at their Van target, which based off initial results of the Van target has the potential to rival their Baptiste deposit, which is 2 billion tons of 0.122% nickel. Now, moving to the northeast region, northeast. So this geology map shows the coal-bearing rock layers in the northeast with the 3 active mines, Willow Creek, Brule, and Wolverine, owned by Conuma Coal. And then we also see Secunca, the proposed mine by Glencore, and Conuma's 2 active exploration projects, the Hudette property and the Herman property. And to the bottom right here, we have a photo of the syncline with visible coal seams in the mine pit wall of the Perry Creek pit of Wolverine mine at Conuma Coal's mine. And looking at the expenditures for the Northeast region, which accounts for just about 1% of the mineral exploration expenditures for 2021 for BC, we see that the spending in advanced and mine stages accounts for approximately 90% of the expenditures, whereas the grassroots and early stage accounts for the other 10%. So the Northeast mainly has advanced to mine scale projects. So now that I have shown the 3 different mining regions of BC in the north, I wanted to bring up a topic that's becoming more of a driving force in the mineral exploration industry, and that's critical minerals. So this mineral tree here is a list of minerals that Natural Resources Canada put out in 2021. And you note that the Canadian government has specified copper and molybdenum as critical minerals, which is good for BC with our extensive porphyry systems. And so on this tree here, all of the elements with the box around them are elements that exist in a currently defined resource within BC. The underlying minerals are minerals with the potential for a resource in BC currently. And so one of the important things people are focusing on is our battery supply chain elements, which includes nickel, lithium, graphite, cobalt, manganese, molybdenum, and rare earth elements. And so all the elements here in bold are elements that currently exist in a resource for British Columbia. And so maybe some of you guys had a chance to catch the critical minerals workshop that the BCGS helped put off back in November. And for other actions that the BCGS has been up to for 2021, field work and office research had continued, and this field work was released last month in an annual fieldwork volume seen here, and that's available online on the BCGS website. And I'd just like to mention again that the BCGS has 2 geologist positions available that you can also apply for online. So just to summarize, for 2021, that is one of the best years on record for metal and other commodities exploration, and especially for the Northwest region as well. And so it's nice to note that the local smither economy is stimulated heavily by the mineral exploration and mining industry. Also great to note how many of the exploration projects through North Central and Northwestern BC have been producing great results and of high grade copper, silver, and gold. And so if you want to know anything else about any of these properties that were mentioned today, you can look them up in the provincial review of exploration and mining in BC for 2021. I'd just like to take the time to thank all the companies that filled out our mineral exploration expenditure survey, as that is the big help for us to get accurate data on mineral exploration here in BC. And I'd also like to thank the companies that permitted me to do site visits in 2021 for the Northeast and North Central regions. And I'd also like to thank my colleagues, Gord Clark and Bruce Northcote. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your time. I'd like to mention to the companies here that I'm looking forward to doing some site visits in the Northwest region for 2022. Thanks. Okay, I definitely thought I might have been a bit more chipper than I was in that, but that's okay. Next up, we're supposed to have Kendra Johnson, but she is currently on an airplane, so we're going to have Jonathan Buchanan fill in for us. And Jonathan is the Director of Regulatory and Technical Policy. Jonathan is responsible for anticipating, understanding, summarizing, evaluating, and influencing public policy as it relates to mineral exploration and development, particularly in the strategic areas of land access and use, environmental aspects, health and safety, and socioeconomic considerations in British Columbia.
Thanks very much. Yeah, thanks very much, Nate. It's a pleasure to be at Rock Talk, and of course, hadn't anticipating being here, but of course, Kendra is currently flying. It's a bit of a chilly day in Vancouver, comparatively speaking. I can go to the next slide. So course, as many of you know, AME's role is to protect and promote the interests of mineral explorers and developers operating or based in BC. And 2022 is AME's 110th anniversary and all along, although we've had various names over the years, the mandate's always been to protect and promote those interests. An additional mandate we have for 2022 is to increase membership engagement, connection, and value. So we'll be launching our strategic planning process for the next few years, and look forward to many of you participating in that. Next. We're coming off of a very successful roundup. We were excited to see nearly 3,500 attendees, nearly 2,400 of them on site, and about 2,000 online. And our student program was slightly smaller than most years, but we still had close to 200 students, and they were really engaged in the networking events and all sorts of opportunities. We had close to 40% of our presenters close to 40% of our presenters were women this year. So we really tried to showcase the diversity in the mineral exploration sector, and certainly something we'll be continuing to do. And nearly 700 people took short courses. So this is a very strong showing in that interest. And as a couple of you might know, I was in the permitting short course with Nadia Broomer. And we had 49 sponsors, so thank you again to our sponsors. And my favorite stat from Roundup, nearly 28,000 pumps of hand sanitizer. So we had all sorts of levels of protection to ensure a safe experience for everyone. And I think I personally used about certainly a few hundred of those pumps myself. Next slide. So of course, now with Roundup over, obviously we're preparing for Roundup 2023, but we've got some exciting events over the next few months. So we'll be doing our annual health and safety workshops. So we have one intro short course, and we also have one for managers. So we'll be developing those. We have 3 more webinars. The return of the AME golf tournament, of course, featuring the buffet, better at eating than playing golf. We have some corporate training on Truth and Reconciliation Commission initiatives, specifically related to call to action number 92 in terms of increasing corporate awareness of Indigenous peoples and the residential school legacy, as well as how to pursue economic reconciliation. And as briefly alluded to, we have our strategic planning engagement session. So those are scheduled for May 3rd to 5th, and we'll be engaging members and people throughout all of BC. Next. So of course, the key to AME's is its advocacy work, and what we have, I'll just guide you through a presentation that Kendra delivered to members of the provincial cabinet back in May. And our key, essentially our key ask was assistance with permitting in the province, and I'll just take you through some of these slides. So next. So the title is Our Time Is Now, Mineral Exploration Development Leading the Future in BC. As we heard in early 2021, mineral exploration had a strong rebound in 2020, but BC wasn't quite meeting its potential early in 2021. So we had 422 million in expenditures in 2020, relatively strong year, but of course with high metal prices, investor interest in BC, there was an opportunity to do more. Next, please. So our key focus was that mineral exploration and mining are positioned for growth and can lead the economic recovery in BC, but we need timely and effective permitting to deliver. Next. So here is the chart that we actually, or the chart of the solar system that we showed the government. We have excellent infrastructure, so Highway 37, both the highway and the Northwest Transmission Line, innovation, so all sorts of service and supply companies and geological research. That's innovative, new discoveries, and certainly Nate showed some of those. Strong metal markets, especially with gold and copper, essentially what porphyry is made of, and a positive BC brand. So that $4 billion investment from Newcrest, along with other investments into the industry that show investor confidence, collaborative First Nation relationships, and geological expertise. So all of these show that the planets are almost aligned for success, but the one outlier that we found was inefficient, slow permitting. And of course, that's our planet Earth in the slide. So this this did hit home, but of course we needed to show some evidence. Next. So we provided some basic background about the industry in terms of exploration expenditures, jobs, employment of Indigenous people, ESG expertise, home to 750 publicly listed exploration companies. That number is now about more than 1,100. So the booming metal markets have really shone in that, and they're all active. In previous booms, so there were quite a few shell companies, but most of these actually do seem to be exploring on the ground. But of course, not just in BC, they're active in about 100 countries around the world. Next. The key point that we highlighted to government was the backlog of more than 200 notice of work applications for low impact exploration work. And of course, in addition to the other notice of work applications for gravel and other resource uses. These permits should take 60 to 90 days to process. And in many cases, they were taking upwards of 10 months, and in some cases, 2 or 3 years. Our competitors are processing permits in less than 60 days, and sometimes even faster. So one example, of course, is Newfoundland Labrador, which has seen a huge resurgence in mineral exploration with roughly a 30-day turnaround time. Next. So what's at stake? So given that this is May 2021 that we presented this, we were demonstrating that if permitting is not improved, there's a possibility of $250 million of investment into BC's economy lost. So a lot of investor interest, but not the permitting to back it up. And of course, that kind of loss into the economy would translate to thousands of jobs impacted, relationships with Indigenous partners stalled, and of course, a year of lost geological results and financing potential. Next. So this is a chart showing the potential jobs and expenditures. So Michael Gray, one of our former volunteer presidents and this year's winner of the Frank Woodside Gold Pen Award, helped us with these stats, showing that in terms of exploration, there are approximately 4,000 jobs annually, and in development, 3,000. So potential of nearly 7,000 jobs altogether with a robust permitting process. And on the development side, that could equate to $2.7 billion annually in expenditures, projects like Blackwater and Caribou Gold. Next. So our message to government was our time is now to deliver on projects that will meet global demand, to clarify the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, and to support this industry as partners with Indigenous peoples, and to invest in permitting, and to show that responsible practices are our greatest competitive advantage. Next. So our ask was $10 million in annual funding for 3 years, support for foundational public geoscience, and fiscal incentives for BC to outcompete other Canadian jurisdictions. Next. We did our presentation, and there was a great deal of interest from Minister Bruce Ralston, and he pledged in this letter to AME to continue to invest in initiatives which will improve permitting efficiency in BC. And we heard that loud and clear on the budget that was delivered on Tuesday. Since our presentation, 5.5 million in funding has been pledged for regional offices across BC, 4 million in Tuesday's budget. There have been 13 new hires and also software and hardware updates. So certainly it's great to see that advocacy for mineral exploration supported by our members can lead to results in terms of resourcing permitting. Next. However, we do have key policy issues that we'll be keeping an eye on. One is ensuring that these new resources are enhancing the process and increasing efficiency. And certainly there have been updates to the system, and of course new staff. So we're very appreciative of that, and we hope to see that this improves efficiency. One key policy issue is the Mineral Tenure Act challenge by the Gitxaala Nation. AME expects to hear from government in terms of its response later this month, and we'll work from there. There is ongoing land use planning and mineral potential mapping. So we're very pleased to see that mineral potential has seen interest in government. There's a mineral potential geologist, and also one key thing is to ensure that government does incorporate mineral potential mapping in its land use planning. Another policy area that we're working on is increased funding for public geoscience and increases to the BC mining exploration tax credit and flow-through tax credits. So all of these were focuses in the Mining Jobs Task Force action plan that was delivered in 2018, and there are certainly some elements that have been incorporated into policy. For example, permanent tax credits for mineral exploration are certainly appreciated. But there is the potential to increase these tax credits, perhaps on a trial period, perhaps permanently, so that BC does have the best suite of credits. Another idea we're exploring with the ministry is a mineral exploration fund, so that is similar to funds available for high tech, and also resembling somewhat a fund that's available in Quebec as well. Next. So Nate already showed these results. Of course, we're thrilled that mineral exploration had a near record year in terms of overall exploration, and of course a record year for metals exploration. And with our advocacy, we hope to see these numbers continue to be strong, and also strong relative to the rest of Canada and the rest of the world. In some years, we have tracked around 13 or 14% of exploration expenditures Canada-wide. Currently, we're at about 20%, and with our geology and expertise, we feel that between 20 and 30% is certainly where BC should be. Next. And Nate also mentioned our Explorer Economy report. Government was after numbers to really show what we know intuitively in the mineral exploration community, that mineral exploration does provide jobs in all communities throughout BC, and also all sorts of services and expertise are based in those communities as well. Next. So our key objectives were to demonstrate the economic impact of mineral exploration, explore the diversity of vendors, determine economic relationships between Indigenous peoples and mineral exploration, and to show how mineral explorers contribute to local economies. Next. So we found that the impact of one project averaged about 1.2 million, but of course, once there's drilling on the ground, the average drilling spend alone is $2.9 million on the project. And what we found is that the potential economic impact of a 5-year permit, even though of course there are some times where there's a lot of drilling, sometimes less drilling, etc., it overall equates to about $11 million over 5 years. So this is certainly some great data that we found through the survey. Next. Nate has shown this slide, and of course showing the Smithers small but mighty contributions. So $105 million estimated in terms of spending in the Mineral Exploration Center industry. Also noteworthy, Vancouver in the 2nd position and Prince George at the 3rd position. Next. So our report's available on the website. So this shows which communities had which services. So not surprisingly, Vancouver's majority of services were consulting and technical services, whereas with Smithers, they were consumables, equipment, and logistics. So for example, accommodations and so on. And Prince George, almost exclusively contractors. So our report's available on the website to dig into these numbers deeper. Next. One thing that we found in this study is that 21% of expenditures were spent with Indigenous affiliated vendors. What's noteworthy about this is that this is 4 times higher than the level that federal agencies are working toward for 2024. They're aiming at 5%. So certainly mineral exploration industry is a leader there. And of course, we see there being more opportunity to grow in this respect. Of course, there were community investments, a quarter of these directed at Indigenous affiliated organizations. So again, no surprises for industry, but certainly good points to bring up with government in our discussions. Next. And so that's an overall of where we have been in the past year in terms of advocacy, and not just in advocating for permitting, but also collecting the data that we need to back up our ask to government. So our ask of you as Rock Talk attendees are to first come to our strategic planning session in May and have your say. So help us navigate our goals as an association over the next 3 years. Certainly share your good news stories with us. And certainly there are all sorts of venues for that through our AME News and of course at our events. And of course, reach out to tell us what your challenges are. So we're here to help. And of course, you have the ears on the ground to tell us exactly what's happening in the field. So we look forward to hearing both the good stories, but also the challenges. And next. And that's our presentation. Of course, we're based in Vancouver, but we'll be certainly traveling extensively now that COVID is reaching that point of being endemic. And of course, we're also on the web, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So certainly welcome you to check out all those venues for information. And yeah, thank you again for listening, and have a great season.
Thank you, Jonathan. That was very interesting to see where all the money is being spent in different locations. And thanks again for filling in last minute for Kendra, who's on an airplane. As a government representative, I'd just like to say that we definitely hear you guys loud and clear as to the backlog with the permitting, and that I'm super glad that you guys are a good advocate for us and to the minister to be able to relay the information as to where we need to be more efficient. And so hopefully the new hires and the new budget that we have will commence to allow for a more efficient permitting process. And so next on the
Sorry about that, folks. Good day. I'm Kevin Brewer, the President and CEO of CMC Metals. And our presentation today, can we have the next slide, please? Or do I control them? Okay, is entitled Pursuing CRD Style Deposits in the Rancheria Silver District. We're going to make some forward-looking statements today. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. So we'll have the next slide. CMC Metals is listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange, symbol CMB, and we have properties on both sides of the country. We're only going to talk about the projects in Western Canada today, but we do have some early stage copper silver projects in Newfoundland. However, in Western Canada, right on the border of Yukon and British Columbia, there is the Rancheria Silver District, and we have 5 properties in that area. Our flagship property, Silverheart, and neighboring is Blue Heaven. And then in British Columbia, on the BC side, we have Amy, Silver Knife, and Rancheria South. Next slide, please. So I think we can go to the next one. So the nice thing about the Rancheria Silver District is we have a wonderful target, because the belt is 130 kilometers long by 50 kilometers wide, but it has a number of high-grade silver, lead, zinc occurrences which have seen minimal exploration. There was a lot of exploration in this belt pre-1980s, and then when the silver price dropped, not just about all the exploration in the belt dropped off. However, work continued, and out of that work came the Silvertip mine, which we know is now owned by Kerr Mining Limited. And the nice part about Silvertip is it's one of the highest grade silver, lead zinc mines in the world, and it's an amazing target. It gives us some encouragement that this is the type of thing we should be looking for. The next slide, please. So what we're going to do really is tell people why we're trying to pursue these carbonate replacement deposit style things, and what the benefit of those is. They're really that they're large deposits. They're 10 to 150 million tons in size. They occur in clusters. They're high grade in nature. They're formed at high temperatures, generally greater than 250 degrees Celsius, and they're typically low-cost mines. Now, with this temperature, I just want to emphasize that, you know, some of the stuff I'll be talking about in a couple minutes' time shows that really, if you're near the intrusive, then you get the kind of temperatures that can create these deposits. So it's very important that that you're near the intrusive source for these things. The interesting part about Silvertip is that they are yet to find the intrusive source. So it's interesting to see that those fluids in that area must have been fairly hot. There's some great examples of CRD deposits around the world. They form some fairly major projects like Cinco de Mayo and the Taylor deposit and other things in northern Mexico, and so these projects are really interesting targets. Next slide, please. So what I want to talk about really today is, because we haven't done a lot of work yet on the BC properties, but we've learned some big lessons from our exploration at the Silverheart project in Yukon that we feel can be applied to the projects in BC. And that's what I'm going to go over right now. Next slide, please. So what we did, the red lines on this map with the yellow dots are representative of the main zone where high-grade silver lead zinc veins were discovered at Silver Heart in the 1970s, and then have been actively explored since 1985. And there's been over 180 holes on those veins put in right now. But we started thinking about the system and what was really possible at Silver Heart. So we conducted an airborne geophysics on Silver Heart and actually all 5 properties in early 2021. And from the Silver Heart data, we found some major conductors that looked like beautiful targets for CRDs. And in particular, I'm going to just briefly mention T1 and T4. And if you look at this as well, you'll note that the T1 and T4 targets are surrounded by intrusives, and those veins systems that have been drilled in the main zone possibly represent feeders to these large conductors, which we're hoping are actually CRD deposits. Next slide, please. So we're going to take what we have here really is a diagram that's showing that the CRD targets are proximal to the vein systems. In particular, the T4, you can see it's right in line with those veins of the main zone. So that was one lesson we had. Next slide, please. The other thing is that these conductors are fairly large, and they can have a good lateral extent. In the case of T1, the lateral extent is over 1,000 meters. It can have good vertical extent as well, so it could be stacked sequences like Silvertip. We don't know yet, and it's got a good strike in excess of 800 meters. So our thoughts on that was that the targets, these targets can be quite large, and they look large at Silver Heart. The next slide, please. So we did more work at Silver Heart as well, because we had that geophysical data, and here the soils are plotted on the mag, and everything in the red and the pink and the yellow would represent intrusives, and the blues and the greens would represent sediments. So in these models, what happens is the intrusives are going into the sediments, penetrating into them. The fluids are coming off the intrusives and going into those sediments, and hopefully spreading laterally into sequences like the limestone. And this is why you want the fluids to be really hot, and you want them to be close to the intrusives, because then they will actually penetrate into those limestone and skarn layers. And what we're seeing here as well is all the blue, the purple and red and orange dots are high-grade silver values in soils. And as you can see, they are right over the T1 and T4 targets. We got fantastic silver lead zinc anomalies in soils coincident with the geophysical targets. And it does suggest as well that the mineralization is comprising of sulfides containing silver, lead, and zinc. Next slide, please. So we don't give up there, because we wanted sort of to compile all the data. So the pinks and the reds again, and the oranges are in the intrusives. And as you can see, the two big circles are also an area where you get low conductivity. So you're in the sediments, you got low conductivity, which you would expect to see with silver, lead, zinc mineralization. And you're near the intrusive. So you got all the ingredients to form good CRD targets at Silver Heart. Next slide, please. So we have the benefit as a company where we've got CRD targets also in north central British Columbia, where we've got the we're a company that doesn't only have one CRD target, we actually have 3 right now. And I'm going to now present the 2 CRD targets that we see in British Columbia. Next slide, please. So here's the 3 properties we own. We own Rancheria South, which is about 20 kilometers away from the Silvertip mine. Silver Knife, which shares the western boundary of the Silvertip mine claims, and Amy, which is 8 kilometers to the west. And first of all, we're going to talk about Amy today. Next slide. So the regional geology shows us that the intrusives are in the orange here, and you can see that the Amy prospect is right on the boundary of the orange with the whitish looking colors, which are the sediments, and exactly where you would want to see mineralization. And sure enough, there it is. It's right on that boundary, which is very interesting to us. And we're also seeing in the Rancheria South property as well, we also see a good boundary there in a couple of the showings on the southwestern corner. And the Silver Knife is again in close proximity to the boundary with intrusive units. Next slide, please. So on the mag side, you can see that you're getting the low mag associated with the dark blues and the lighter blues, which is exactly what you want to see at Amy and all these projects, right at that intrusive contact boundary. Next slide. The other thing you want to see is you want to see magnetic lows in those areas, and again, you see a mag high associated with the intrusive, but right neighboring to it, you see a lower magnetic anomaly, and that's also very encouraging, because that's the setting that we see at Silver Heart. Next slide. So here's a picture of Amy. You can see that it's had a lot of historic work in the past. It dates back to the 1960s when 2 adits were put into this project and a whole bunch of trenching and geochem. Right now, we've hired SRK Consulting to compile all that data. And our aim for this year is to bring it to drill ready stage. So we're sorting out the data right now. Next slide, please. We're very encouraged by it. It looks to be a classic carbonate replacement style deposit. It's hosted in limestone. And the nice part about it, of course, is it's only 8 kilometers west of the Silvertip mine. Next slide, please. There was 33 drill holes placed into the mineralized zone there that had a strike of over 170 meters, sorry. And there's a number of mineralized showings showing carbonate replacement style mineralization with some beautiful grades in trenches and in float samples. And there was also a non-43, non-NI National Instrument 43101 compliant historic resource on it of about 80,000 tons, grading 790 grams ton silver equivalent. So it was very encouraging that the material that came between the 2 levels, which was drilled off, had some really nice grades, very comparable to the to Silvertip. Next slide, please. So here's a sample that came from the adit, and there was over 200 feet of strike in the 4450 level that graded almost 21 ounces a ton silver, 5% lead, and about 7.5% zinc. So really nice mineralization in this area. Next slide, please. So we're going to jump to Silver Knife, and you can see we're right next door to the Silvertip mine, and we share the Silver Knife prospect, which has been drilled. Silver Knife in that area has about 50 meters of glacial cover in that, so it is a blind target. and hence we're treating it as such and taking a geophysical approach to the project. Next slide. The nice part about the Silverknife prospect is it's right near the intrusive boundary again, and so we're deeper in the sequence compared to Silvertip, so we would be getting closer to the intrusive source, and we're looking at that. In the southern part of the property, we have a lot of McDame limestone, and the McDame limestone is the host to the Silvertip deposit. So we're very interested in that. So we're going to map the southern part of the property this year and do some geochem over it, as there's geochem anomalies coming off of that stuff on the steep slopes, and we feel that might be the origin of them. Next slide, please. So here's a picture of the area looking from Amy towards Silverknife, and you can see that there's some pretty steep cliffs in that area, but on those slopes, you're getting those geochem anomalies coming off of the southern area. Now, there was 30 holes put into Silverknife, and there was some really nice average assay values coming out of that again of silver, gold, lead, and zinc, which again are very comparable to the grades at Silvertip. There's been some IP surveys and a fair degree of soil sampling. What we're planning to do with Silverknife is to use a gravity survey over the northern part of the claims. Kerr have used gravity surveys very effectively to identify drill targets on their own lands, and we're hopeful that our gravity surveys will indicate the same. And they also help to distinguish the some of the graphite that does hang around in some of these units. Next slide, please. So here's the magnetic data at Silverknife, and you can see that in the north it shows a moderate to low magnetic signature, which is what you would like to see. And in the south, you see a low magnetic signature, likely associated with sediments that we think are McDame Formation, and that shows a very prospective area for future exploration. Next slide. So in talking about resource grades, we do see from our Silverheart that we're very high in the profile of grades with respect to silver mines existing in the world and silver explorers and developers. And if we did plot a Silvertip on this, that both of those would be in the very upper tier of these grades in the 700 plus range. So these are very high grade targets and very encouraging in that regard. Next slide, please. So our current goals as a company are to really focus on resource expansion at our flagship Silverheart project. But we are taking Amy and Silverknife a lot more seriously in 2022, and we plan to take them to drill ready stage. So with the compilation of the work that SRK is doing, we hope to do some field work and then locate where we should drill and put the drill pads in place. So we'll be doing stuff like fixing up the access to the area, resampling a lot of those trenches that are already there, and getting a good picture of what the geophysics and geology picture really looks like. And a Silverknife, of course, as I just stated, we're going to do a gravity survey, and from that we hope to be able to pinpoint the drill targets. At that stage, when we take it to drill ready stage, we really want to bring a joint venture partner to the table, because we feel our focus will remain Silverheart in the foreseeable future. Next slide, please. In the long term, what we hope to do with Amy and Silverknife really is to define resources that we can potentially sell to Kerr for processing at Silvertip. I mean, it makes perfect sense that we're only 1 kilometer and 8 kilometers away from their mine and mill complex. And and our material should be metallurgically good for them. We will start to do metallurgical studies as we proceed with this, and see and have some discussions will occur on eventually working together on processing that material. So we finally today, next slide, we are, I will state that I feel we're superbly positioned in the Rancheria Silver District. We've got 3 advanced stage exploration projects, all with potential to host carbonate replacement deposits. As a company, we have a diverse portfolio in Canada, good mining jurisdictions. We're happy to be in BC. We're also happy to be in Yukon and Newfoundland. We're highly undervalued at a current price of 15 cents. We are right now in the midst of a financing, so if anybody is interested, please feel free to check our website or contact our office, and we can get in touch with you about that. And I really thank the group at Smithers for allowing me to present here today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin, and thanks for being able to join us. It was definitely more informative that way. We're going to turn it over to Lori now, and she'll pose the questions for the Q&A period for this morning's speakers.
We've had a few questions come in from the chat. Just have to locate it. So the first question is, for the industrial